You're listening to the Every Day is a New Day show. Inspirational conversations with movers and shakers about moving forward and choosing to embrace a positive outlook. Now, here's your host, Kim O'Neill.
Welcome. My name's Kim O'Neill, and I'm a twice-certified transformational coach, Reiki master, best-selling author, podcast host, former crime analyst, and big believer in learning from everything so you can confidently move forward in life. You can join us for the live shows most Wednesdays on Facebook at 6 p.m. Pacific time. And now, here's today's newest awesome guest. Hey everyone. Before we get into the show, I first want to say I hope you are doing well, staying safe, and taking time to be mindful and keep your spirits up. At the time of this show recording, we are globally experiencing the coronavirus and the ripple effects of what it's brought into all of our communities, whether that be the actual virus, social distancing, or just vast change that everyone is learning how to navigate. I want to remind you that you are not alone. This is an excellent time to get clear on what matters most to you and to also practice even better self-care than you were before. You and your well-being matter. Now, for today's episode, guess what? I'm speaking with Bensen and Bob Orchard, the visionary and creator behind the Service Relief Project, a worldwide directory of service relief projects that you can create for your community to support small businesses who may be in need of added resources at this time or any time of crisis. And in the middle of the live broadcast, we randomly got cut off and had to start all over. Also, midway through this episode, Bob did a live screen share to show our live viewers on Facebook some of the steps to take when setting up your own directory of service relief projects for your area. That portion of this show has been edited out of the audio-only broadcast, but can still be found on both YouTube and Facebook. Now, here's the part where I was reconnecting with Drew and recapping where we left off. And if you're watching us a moment ago, we did get cut off. So this is a continuation, but just to get you a little bit caught up, let me share with you what we are talking about today. The Service Relief Project is a worldwide directory of service relief projects created only in 7 days. And there's even more, it's more fascination about how all that took place that we're going to share with you in a little bit here. But created basically in a week, this global resource was born as a means to support local bars, restaurants, service businesses, and more affected by the COVID-19 health crisis. And so we are here to talk to you about this amazing resource so that you can learn how you can quickly launch a blazing fast, zero-cost directory of resources to help businesses and organizations in your community who may also be affected by shutdowns around the world. So right now we're touching base with Bensen. Some of this, originated with him, and he has his own small business in the Seattle, Washington area. And he was sharing with us his story about coming to that place of realizing you had to stop the schedules. And so you had to stop the schedules, and I think it cut off right about that part.
Yeah. Well, basically, Kim, I think I don't want to speak for other people, but I think that's kind of what's happening is that we're going through, I was saying, like the steps of grief, like anger and denial and all that. And I was in like the bargaining, and finally I realized I can't do anything about this. There's no amount of business savvy where I can like come up with a plan that's going to make this change a pandemic. And I need to make the decision that's right for me and my team and their health, even though I may be having to, I don't want to be dramatic, but even though it may mean that I have to, lose a company I've spent 15 plus years working on and committed to and whatnot. And then on top of that, what it does to the folks that work with me. Right. I mean, they now, have to go on unemployment, and some of them may not need to. They have other resources, and some of them can't. They wouldn't make enough because it's one of their jobs. So it was a big decision, but I thought it was the only decision. And right before that happened, I saw the Service Relief, the Chicago page, and thought, well, maybe that was still in the bargaining, figuring things out. I was like, well, maybe this could help Seattle, other businesses in Seattle, because I can hear my friends, their restaurants, their coffee shops. I mean, they're all hurting. And then, I didn't want to do this, but I put up a GoFundMe for my company to try and help the company and the staff at this time before they were going on unemployment. But still, we're still supporting some of them. And yeah, so that's where it came about. It was just like, what are we doing? We've never seen anything like this. How do we, there's a lot of people hurting. And when I contacted Bob, he said to me, and he'll probably mention it too, is that he didn't realize really the extent of what was going on at the moment. Neither did my, I can't speak for her, but from what I heard my friend in Chicago, when I first called her, she was like, wow, I didn't realize. And then like the next day it hit where they, got the news of wait a minute, this is really a big deal. It's not being downplayed, whatever anymore. So that's the story. It was like, for me, it was more like, what's the right thing to do? This is really hard. I don't want to ask for help. Oh, what can I do that makes me feel better? Help other people. That's what makes me feel better. And it keeps me from going down that spiral. Right. Okay. So then reaching out to Bob and having him just be such a brilliant guy and just be able to get something and take it. It really kept me, he gave me like, it gave me more hope. It gave me this sense of love of people caring. And it just, he's got such a big heart and it really helped. So.
Awesome. Well, and so Drew, right now business is on hold for Close to Home Pet Services.
Schedules are frozen. Okay. We have one person working with the folks that are still out of town and their cats have to be fed or they won't live, Yeah. And that person is not in contact with humans at all. They live alone. They're going straight out to the cats. And that's only one person due to like that they need to be. And I have self-isolated. So I couldn't do it. So that person wants to work and it's a safe situation. Okay. Everything else is frozen. The whole company is just frozen.
Okay. And so now we're going to hear from Bob Orchard in a moment, who is the lead creator on this amazing, fascinating project. And just before we get to him though, so everything's frozen for you, Drew, but you now actually have a listing in the directory that's been created. And will you just share with us a little bit about like, what are you experiencing? Like what is the directory, creating for you right now?
Well, to be honest with you, it's a GoFundMe. It's a GoFundMe for the company. And it has about $500 in it, which is wonderful and just so grateful for it. And definitely, 80% of that went to, in particular, one employee that's really hurting and didn't ask for it, none of them asked for any of this, but didn't expect it. And definitely is amazing. And we want that person to stay with us because they're really good at their job and they're just good. So, it's there, but I'm the kind of person where I also want, I want to create something to where I'm working. I don't want to ask. So yes, the GoFundMe is there. Yes, it would be wonderful to get the support if it can happen, but I'm also seeking the other opportunities that are out there to try and, do that. But what the site can do for other folks is, we can't put a gift card up necessarily because the public can't buy our gift card. We're specialized. We can't just say, yeah, Kim, we'll come walk your dog. We're not in the area you are located.
Right.
So that's why for us, it's a little tricky, but my friend that owns a coffee shop or there's a bar up here, restaurants, you could buy gift cards. So it's not hurting them to list it there. They could list it in a million places. This is just one other place they can list it. So this doesn't matter. So there may be other projects out there like this. Like, I think someone said, Asheville Strong for North Carolina.
Okay.
Awesome. But they're not competition, they're support.
Right.
Bob and I aren't getting anything out of this other than just creating something to support.
Right. Well, and here's what I'm noticing is when I've looked at the directory is how awesome it is that you can see all the different businesses that are listed. And so maybe you're going to the directory to help one business, but then you see others and you're like, oh, I've heard of them. Or maybe I like what they do and I want to help them too. So that's beautiful and that, how it works that way. So Drew, thank you so much for sharing with us your story. I'm going to go ahead and drop you down in the lobby. If you're able to just hang around till the end, that'd be awesome. If not, I understand. We're going to go ahead and bring Bob Orchard up on the screen, but it was awesome to talk to you, Drew, and hear your story. Thank you.
Always nice talking with you, Kim.
You too. Okay. And so we are going to bring Bob Orchard up on the screen now, and he should be popping up any moment. There we go. Let's
Hey,
get
Kim.
Bob's name. Hey, Bob, welcome.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. Feeling pretty good right now.
Good. Well, so this project is so inspiring how it came about. I mean, we got to hear, how it was generated out of Drew Benson, but a business owner, finding that, oh my goodness, I'm really having to come to terms with, this is the experience. I'm struggling. I don't want to be asking for help. But also seeing the beauty in, what, maybe I can help others, because a lot of businesses are in the same position right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so he mentioned, you guys started talking, and you had this idea come about for the service relief project. And will you tell us, what was your experience once it came to you? Because I know things just started to happen quickly at that point.
Yeah, Drew and I worked together in the past for a number of years. We actually both met when both of us were RVing full time, and I was helping out his business and providing some help with the website that he had for close to home pets, and eventually his personal site. And so we text back and forth all the time to check in to see how each of us are doing. I got a text message from Drew, and it's pretty much like, hey, the business is hurting. Seattle's hit hard. And that resonated with me immediately because I've got other coworkers over in Seattle right now. And so we're getting news trickling in from our remote team from around the world in different places that are hit to different degrees. From that text message, like he messages me and he's like, hey, can you help me set up a simple site? There's this other site out here, Chicago Relief, Service Relief, and they've got some listings of their businesses. Is there anything that we can do about this with Seattle? And from there, like my mind starts racing of like, hey, how can I help? Because I'm in the middle of the United States. I'm in Omaha, Nebraska. I'm probably one of the least internationally traveled cities when it comes to airports. And we're seeing a lot of like the international cities hit the hardest. And that's gradually crept into the US in a way that I've never seen in my lifetime, for sure.
So when this idea came to you, I mentioned earlier that the entire project was completed in 7 days or in a week, but really, when you look at it, it was much quicker than that. Will you share with us? You had things up and running within how many hours?
So I'm fortunate I'm going to share a little bit about my company first, but I'm fortunate to work for an awesome company called Gatsby. And we work primarily on a piece of open source technology that dramatically reduces the amount of time that it takes to build websites and apps and deploy them. And so this was like right in my wheelhouse, and I had just redesigned my own personal site. And so Drew had messaged me, and I'm like, hey, I've got an idea for it. It's not going to be like the other websites that you have that are built with WordPress. I think I can get something out much quicker for you. And he messaged me at 6:30 or so in the evening when I was having dinner. And I was trying to think about the project and tried to go to bed and couldn't sleep. And then at 12:30 in the morning, I sent him back a link, and I'm like, hey, I know it's late, but you should check this out. And it was a live, like really quick comp of the site, drawn from inspiration from the Chicago Service Relief site.
Amazing. So within 6 hours, you already had like a framework up and running.
Yeah, just a general concept. Honestly, Spencer Tweedy, he's the gentleman that built the Chicago Service Relief site. He's really the biggest inspiration in it. I had a really awesome video chat with him last week when I talked to him about like his goals for the Chicago site, what he really hoped to do for it. And he really wanted to see it grow and impact more areas, but he's just one person. And so it immediately like jumped into my head of like, how can I help automate this and make it easier for more people? And so like to give you kind of a timeline, like this all started last week, I believe it was Monday, and I had the live site up and running right away. Wednesday, I chatted with my engineering and different teams at Gatsby. And I was like, hey, I've got this idea. I posted in a random channel at Slack. And I'm like, hey, I've got this idea for a way that I think we as Gatsby, as folks that focus on open source software and doing great things could probably help today. Because, everybody, like we could feel it. Like even as a remote company, we shut down for 2 days last week. just to let people deal with things in their local areas. And so we had 8 or 9 people jump on a video chat Wednesday evening after work. And in about 2 hours, we had a really quick prototype of what we could build. We had a bunch of questions that needed to be answered. Over the next 4 days, the team put some of their own free time into the project and helped build out what would eventually be what the Service Relief Project is now, a way to deploy at zero cost a directory of resources for your city or local area. And we're seeing this used all the way from LA to Vermont to Austin to Seattle, all over the United States to start. And we've got team members that are around the world that have asked, hey, what can we use this outside of just the US? And so we've seen 12 or so sites spun up. I just got word that another one launched while we're on the call here. And so it's really cool to see these sorts of things happening as this grows. And like we essentially tried to be the snowball at the top of the mountain. We wanted to help empower others to launch these sites and make that process as easy as possible.
That is so inspiring. So just to reiterate for anybody, who's with us right now is basically employees of Gatsby worked for free in their own time to help create this global directory that's now a resource for small businesses to receive relief.
Yeah, small businesses, organizations, and really we started it to surface a lot of these fundraisers that are happening around the US in the different areas. And as more people got involved with the project, more people interacted with my announcement of it, we saw that people are starting to take it and use it for different ways. And so the primary focus now is shifted from how do we list a bunch of GoFundMes to how do we provide a central resource or a directory of resources that can help a specific geographic area. And this really aligns very well with the mission of Gatsby as a whole, because we want to help create and inspire improvements to the web. And we view the web as a critical resource for all of humanity. And so this is just something that we couldn't pass up on giving our own time and expertise. And I'm fortunate to work with some of the greatest people in the world, deeply empathetic and wonderful human beings that wanted to help out.
So one thing I actually meant to test before we came on here, I believe, so I'm just being honest here. I was going to see if we could do a screen share, and didn't know if you might want to walk, pretend I'm a new user because it's so user friendly. If I can do a screen share here, would you want to walk me through it?
Yeah, I could walk you through it. So we have full instructions on how to do this. I don't know if we have the 20 or 30 minutes it would take to launch a full one, but I can at least walk you through some of what is behind these sites and show you really what we're seeing on our end here, and give you a quick demo. So let me see if I can share my screen out, and I'll pull some windows over and help us out.
Oh, awesome. You can share your screen?
Yeah, so I've just got to update a real quick add-on to Chrome, and I should be able to share my screen out.
Okay, that looks doable. Yes, I think once it shows up down below for everyone with us, I see it down below, then I'll be able to pop it up, I believe.
All right.
So
we're doing this live.
Yes.
So things may break.
Okay, there we go. So let's see. I'm going to, how can we adjust to this? You know what, Bob, I am going to, if you want to, do you want to just maybe just take a couple of minutes? I'm going to take myself off and just let you and the screen share be up, and you can walk people how they.
Yeah, for sure. And feel free to take my video down. I can walk folks through it. That shouldn't be any trouble at all.
You know what? They wouldn't be able to hear you if I took you down. So.
Oh, okay.
But thank you for that. Okay, so I will be right back, and Bob's going to show you how to go through this. So here we go. Take it away, Bob.
Awesome. So the Service Relief Project really focuses on launching a directory of resources for your city and your area. We've got a lot of awesome instructions here. Different team members have contributed to making this as detailed as possible. And really, there's only a couple of things that you would need in order to launch one of your own directory sites to help out your local area. So in this case, you'll need a domain name, you'll need a couple of free accounts, And these free accounts will be for GitHub, Netlify, and Airtable. If you haven't heard of those before, don't worry at all. We have links to signing up for each of those to be able to get you up and running. And so what I'm going to do real quick is walk through a couple of the steps that we'll need to do this. So there is one product that we have you sign up for, which is called Airtable. You can think of that as kind of an Excel database that your site will use to pull data out of it. And so I'm going to open up a template here, and I'm going to create a new base. And you'll see this base here. I just created service relief template. I'm going to actually name this one Omaha Service Relief, so we can spot it later. And when you click that link and you add it to your account, we preload some information. I worked with Drew to go ahead and build the Seattle site. And so we actually modeled all of these additional sites that are spun up off of Seattle's. And you'll see a couple of categories here on the left-hand side. You can add as many categories as you would like, and you can add as many listings as you would like inside of each of these categories and be able to build based on that. So once I've clicked that link and I've launched that Airtable base rather, I can continue on the instructions here. We'll walk you through what it'll take to go ahead and get some snippets of information here throughout Airtable. It takes a few steps to go through and find exactly what you need. And so we highlight exactly what you're looking for when you view your account. And so I'm going to open this up in another window real quick while we go through and collect those things. And this is mainly because I'm actually going to use this Airtable base account for the local Omaha site, because we're starting to see the ripple effects of getting hit by it right now. So I'm going to grab the text snippet here. These are the 4 things that we're going to be looking for in Airtable. It's pretty straightforward and easy to find, which is awesome. And so I'm going to walk through and get a couple of those details. And I'm going to skip the first one, mainly because that'll give you access to everything that's in my account. So let me copy that. All right. So from here, I'm going to go down to the next piece here, and we're going to go to the API page. We're going to click on that newly created base that we have, and we're going to grab the ID of that base. That's the second piece of information that we're looking for here. And then the next thing that we're going to look for is the table. So the table is the Airtable base that we want to pull information from in order to display that information on the website. So to get to that, I'm going to open up the Omaha Service Relief. We're going to go up into the URL here, and we're going to grab just part of that URL. All right, and then the last thing that we want to do is we want to grab the embed ID. The embed ID is what's going to give us the ability to automatically build a form, put it on the site for you, and allow you to collect submissions for your local area. And to get to that, over on the left-hand side with Airtable, we're going to switch from the grid view to the submit a fundraiser. This is the form that's pre-built for you when you click that Airtable link. No customization is needed. You'll see categories populate here as soon as they're added by you in the other view. And we're going to share the form. We're going to copy this ID that's in the URL here. And I promise that is it for what you're going to be looking for in order to build your site. 4 little key bits of information will allow Gatsby and the site that we generate for you to go ahead and connect to that site, pull down the information, and build the content and build the site for you. So we're going to scroll down here. I kind of jumped through all of these instructions, and then we're going to go ahead and deploy the site. So there's a great there's a great hosting provider that we love to recommend for this. It's called Netlify. And Netlify has a free tier that allows you to launch a site And as long as you're within the limits, which all of these directories most definitely should be, they're super fast, super lightweight sites, so you should never run into a problem. It allows us to grab all of the code that we've worked on for the last 7 days and automatically build a site for you. So I'm going to go into Netlify here. I'm going to connect it to the GitHub account that I've already created. And I'm going to fill in some information here. So I'm going to do service relief Omaha. And I'm just giving it a name, and this helps me differentiate it between other sites that are in my account. I'm going to grab my Airtable ID, which I'm going to bring over to another window for a quick second here. Actually, we're going to do that last so I can show you what it looks like. We're going to grab the base ID here. We are going to grab a table name, which we've got on our clipboard, and then we're going to grab an embed ID. That's that last one for the form. We're going to give it, we're going to tell the site what you're going to name it. So in this case, we're going to do Omaha, and we're in Nebraska. So I'm going to drag this out of the way here. And all I'm going to do is hit save and deploy. And when that page updates, I'll bring it back over into the window here. All right. So what's happening in the background here is we're taking all of the code that we've already written. We're taking the values that you've put into that form for deploying the site. And Netlify is compiling that website and launching it for you. If you're not a technical person, this is pretty much the limit of what you would need to do as far as looking at strings of text or any sort of code. And so we're going to go ahead and let this deploy for just a moment here. And while this is deploying, you can see it says site deploy in progress. We're going to click on domain settings. So this is another really awesome part specifically with Netlify is you can manage your domain and everything with it. And so when you build the site initially, they're going to give you a randomly generated URL that you could use. And we're going to add a custom domain. So in this case, we're going to grab omahaservicerelief.com. I've already purchased it and it's already in my Google account. So that's why it asked me for the prompt there. And then it'll walk me through some additional DNS configuration. I'm not going to worry about that for right now because this could take 20 or 30 minutes for those updates to go through. And that's really the only thing that you're waiting on. So I'm going to bounce back over to the overview tab here. And I am going to, actually, looks like it wanted to use the domain. So I'm going to remove this momentarily and we'll go back to the overview page. So we're going to click on that URL and you can see here, I've generated a site for Omaha Service Relief. I've got some information here about what's available and different organizations that you can support. And one of the greatest things about this entire process is if I go to Airtable and I open up the Omaha Service Relief list of data here, I am going to just mention there's another local service, local and co. This is not a real organization. I just wanted to use this for an example purpose here. Local and co is selling gift cards to help support them through the shutdowns. And the description, there's a couple pieces of information that we're looking for here. So the first would be the name of the business. We also look for a fundraiser URL. So where are we going to send somebody? What category it's in. So we can select here and choose what one it's in. I'm just going to put this one in restaurants, mainly because restaurants are most recently affected in Omaha. And we just issued not necessarily a stay-at-home, but we're not allowed to do any dine-in in Omaha right now. And then we have an approved column here. So this approved column determines whether or not the listing shows up on the site that you've already built. And so we're going to set that one to yes. And then we're going to do a second thing. And so we're going to go into the Omaha Service Relief site, and we're going to suggest an addition. And you'll see that there's this form here. And this form allows anybody to submit a fundraiser or site for consideration. And it will automatically launch or add the listing and flag it so it's not approved. So it won't show up automatically. You would have to go into the approval column. So we're going to do beets and barley. And then I'm going to select another one as a bars and events. Thank you so much. And we're going to submit this. And this form is built automatically and is automatically connected to Airbase. And so when I go back into Airbase here, you can see that under bars and events, beets and barley is already there by the time I've switched back over. Didn't need to refresh, didn't need to do anything. So I'm going to select that one as yes. And then once you've edited this, we have a couple of ways that we can automatically update the site. But the one that I recommend to everybody is to go ahead and go back into Netlify, and we're just going to trigger a real quick deploy. And then this will take just a few minutes to build the site very quickly. And apparently it is giving me a hard time. So much like doing stuff live, it looks like something's going wrong. I'll take a look at that. Oh, actually, it looks like it's got auto publishing turned on, which is what we're seeing here. So it looks like the team already built the thing I talked about wanting to do. So with that, I'm going to end my screen share here. I think we're in a pretty good spot. We've kind of launched the site. There's a few extra small steps that you could go ahead and do to make this live on your domain. But overall, this is really how quick and easy we tried to make it to launch your own local resource site to help out. There are typically civic groups in many areas across the US. I was involved with one of them, like in Grand Rapids, for instance. And so reach out to them. Like if you are passionate about launching one of these for your site, or maybe this is like a little bit intimidating for you to go ahead and launch it yourself, there are probably groups in your area. If you have questions about it, or if you have any problems with this, I'm available over Twitter at Bob Orchard. Feel free to reach out and tag the Service Relief Project, and our team will just keep an eye on it and answer anything that comes up.
Awesome. Well, thank you for taking time to walk everyone through that. And there are instructions like right there on the site to walk someone through it, correct?
Yeah, so from servicerelief.us, you can see a list of all of the directories that we are aware of, and you can suggest your own there. There's also a link to build your own directory with super detailed walkthrough instructions with images and recordings of what you should look for and where you need to go. But if you do have any questions, please reach out to either Gatsby or to myself, and you can find a link to the Gatsby site down at the bottom of the Service Relief page.
Okay, and it's a no-cost directory, but is that cost just for the domain name, right?
Yeah. So most domain providers would charge anywhere between $7 and $15 a year. Okay. With Google domains, I think I pay $12 a year for it. If that is an option, if that's a problem or prohibiting you from launching it, reach out. I can't guarantee anything, but we can look for different ways to help out with this, maybe launching a subdomain for yours under Service Relief, or coming up with a way to list it or do something with it. But we want to help you succeed.
And that would likely just be the cost for that very first person in any region, right? Because then every other business that comes onto the directory, it's
correct. There's no cost. And so every time that you build a site and you launch it, Netlify's free tier that they have for this level of hosting covers everything. So my personal website doesn't cost me anything to host because of this technology.
Okay. Wow. Okay. And so you were walking us through it, and thank you for doing that. For anybody who is interested in launching this in their area, you can come back to this and, look at the README instructions, and then also follow along with Bob and see, get some of your questions answered that way. But what I want to say, I wanted to say that How long would you say it typically takes someone to launch a directory?
I mean, what you saw me launch in just a few minutes, I mean, I knew where I was going, but our goal for this is to make it something you can launch in less than 30 minutes. And the only wild card is how long it will take to update your domain name and point at this directory. That's something that we can't necessarily control. I've seen it update in 10 minutes. I've also seen it take 24 to 36 hours, but it really depends on where you buy your domain name. If you go to domains.google.com, for instance, those tend to update within 30 to 60 minutes. And there's just a few extra steps to point it over and get you up and running.
Nice. Okay, that's a great tip. Well, so this is barely, I mean, this has been around for like a week. How long do you say it's been around? Do you say a week?
I mean, we started our phone call building the prototype exactly a week ago, Wednesday of last week. And we started, almost exactly 7 days.
And there's already a good handful of locations on there. I'm looking at it on my end. I see Arizona, South Carolina, Utah, Kentucky, Minnesota, Colorado, Texas, Washington, Connecticut, South Dakota, North Carolina, Michigan, and I forget what I was going to say.
And more and more. So there's a lot of people building and working on it. It tends to be a little bit more in the technical community right now. But on top of that, like, I think there's also Vermont as well that hasn't made it on the list yet, but I'll be adding them shortly.
Okay. And so what I wanted to say is, so based on those businesses that are already listed in the directory, what type of feedback have you been receiving from them? Like, what have you seen since it started?
We've seen all sorts of feedback, not necessarily from the businesses themselves. I do want to highlight the Chicago release site and focus a little bit for a second on Spencer's work there. That site grew from just a really quick site that he posted with about a dozen or so resources. I checked the count while I was waiting to jump on the call with you, and there's over 720 different listings just on that for Chicago alone, broken up by category.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so it's continuing to grow. And so as more and more people have come into contact with this sort of a project, most projects like these that we've seen, they tend to be super developer focused. But there have been quite a few people that have chimed in and they're like, hey, I really want to do this. You know, I just need to buy a domain name, or I just need to do this. And I've watched my mentions in Twitter blow up as a result, which has been great. And we just chime in to help them. And I think the greatest things that we've seen so far is that it started as just a resource for GoFundMe's and a list of those. It turned into a list of general resources for a small area, geographically small area, so like Seattle. Griffin Fargo tweeted at me earlier today, and said, hey, Vermont's really small, so I think we're just going to launch one for all of Vermont. And so those sorts of things are really awesome. And then other people have just taken this up and picked it up and ran with it. And so people are looking at extending the project. And so if you happen to be a little bit more technically inclined, I should say, this kind of acts as a starting point. And so if you are in software development or if you're looking to get into it, GatsbyJS.org has a ton of incredible tutorials and documentation on the things that you could build into this. We just gave you a starting point. But other people are looking to build interactive calendars of community resources and lots of different ways to expand this into a true resource for their area. And that's something that honestly we didn't expect.
That's awesome. That's very exciting. Well, Bob, what is your vision for this beyond, what's currently shown up? Anything that you want to share with us before we?
I mean, like I said before, I just want to be the snowball at the top of the mountain to inspire and empower others to launch and help their communities. There's no way that 1 or even 40 people could support the entire world with this. And we wanted other people to see the power, be empowered to help their own community and really own it. And provide a resource for that. And so from here moving forward, our goal with this project is to continue to support it as an open source project and help others as they've got questions or want to contribute to it. That's how Gatsby started as an open source product. And we've got all of our code listed online for free. So if anybody wanted to contribute back to the project and continue to grow it, I just look forward to helping people as they pick it up and move it forward even further than I can.
Well, we're not done yet, but I just want to say right now, thank you. Thank you for creating something so quickly, especially, all your other colleagues over at Gatsby JS. Fantastic work. It's very incredibly inspiring. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, and great job to Chicago, who was like a huge inspiration for all of this too, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna pop Drew back up as we near the end of the show here.
Thank you very much, Kim.
Absolutely. Well, and I'd love for you to stay.
We talked about this before the call. It's even funnier now.
Our outfits are matchy. We're twins.
Not intentional.
Well, Bob is my good friend and Kim is my good friend. So, and now that you know each other, so this is fantastic. Kim, sorry we didn't tell you to wear a matching outfit.
Hey, you know what? I think it's actually more fitting that I get to be right in the middle and I'm not matching. So it's all good.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? This is just very inspiring. Drew, do you have any final words you want to say before we
I do, Kim. I do.
Say it.
Okay.
What is it?
So here's the thing. When I reached out to Bob, I was in a really hard spot. We still are, here, but it's very humbling, and it was very difficult. And what a saying that I have, a kind of a concept I have is long before this happened, is this empowering me, or is this enabling me? Whatever it is. And asking for help doesn't feel good, to me at least, and it feels a little enabling. Like, am I just asking for help without solving this myself, kind of thing? And what talking with Bob and what he did and what he created is he said this a few minutes ago, a few times, is he's empowering people. So you put the power back into the people's hands of creating something. So he said, all right, Drew, get on the let's get on a video chat, and he walked me through what he walked you through. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, Bob, this is because you're brilliant. Remember, you're real fast at this because you're so smart. And he's like, well, you can do it too, And so he put the power back in my hands in empowering me and others. And I think that's the key right there, is because when you're in hardship, looking for hope, and not staying in the dark or the hard or all of that, and getting to the place of empowerment. Now, it's hard to get there. I'm not saying that anybody's right or wrong for where they are in this process, because this is the most difficult thing a lot of us have ever been through. But this is one piece of showing hope and empowering. And it gives, I said this to him, you're giving me more hope. And I think it's really important to see that piece of it, because yes, it's setting up a site for people to help other people. Yes. Well, those people that are needing help, it's very difficult to ask for it. It's very difficult to be in that position. So to create something to help others when they're in that oppressed stage, or in that whatever the word you want to use for it, it does something for your psyche. It does something to bring the light back in. And I think if anything, it did that for me. And whether our GoFundMe does anything or not, it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm grateful for what it's done, but that part isn't really what matters. It's the part that you brought back hope.
Yeah.
And so thank you. Talking to you, Bob.
That's you, Bob.
Sorry, I was looking at the message that I posted to the rest of the team on Friday. And so we kind of had a working MVP as of Friday. And I messaged the team something somewhat similar about this, and I said, when we I'm going to read it verbatim real quick. I said, when we kicked off this project, I was envisioning a way to help cities around the United States. However, this idea is now much bigger than my initial vision as the news has rolled in. I get the feeling that we're ahead of the wave right now, if just barely. But as more organizations and businesses are affected, my hope is that we can encourage others to light their own torch from what we started. And it's all about empowerment. And Drew's probably one of the most phenomenal human beings I've ever met. Deeply inspirational in his own right, and super, super humble about it. But asking for help is always probably the most difficult thing. It's something that I tend to not do because I always want to go out and solve the problem myself. And as Drew has found out working with me and myself working with him, we brainstorm and work off of each other, and we can actually cut the feedback loop down. And so you're not like in this perpetual spot where you're spinning your wheels and you're not able to move forward. And Drew has been a wonderful inspiration to myself several times over the past year alone. And this to me was it needed to be done. Like it didn't matter if it took me 6 hours or 6 months. Granted, 6 months would be a little bit too long for a pandemic, but just to emphasize the point, like it's just about helping people.
Well, it's beautiful. What you and the employees of Gatsby have done is really wonderful. And I would just say that I know that it's hard to ask for help for a lot of people, and yet it's okay. And what a beautiful thing, though, how in seeking support for yourself, you can be able to give back to others. And that's the thing that kind of keeps coming up for me throughout all this. Here there's all these stay-at-home orders, shut down, supposed to be 6 feet away from everybody. And how interesting that it's actually bringing people so much closer together, right? Mm-hmm. And so to me, it goes right back to going from the inside out. We're going to connect through the heart, through the internet and everything, and eventually we'll be able to, be closer than 6 feet. So beautiful work, Bob. And Drew, I'm glad that you reached out, and look, the ripple effect that's already started with all these other states and cities that are linked up. Like, that is fascinating. So just beautiful work.
One more thing, Kim.
Yeah.
Then Kim took this information, what was it, last night? True. And worked through the night to prepare this interview and do this. So you also jumped in and are doing your part. So thank you. I mean, you were messaging me. I had been asleep for 5 hours when you messaged. So I was like, got it in the morning. I mean, so everybody is doing something. I mean, you've also done something. So thank you for what you did to get us on here so quickly. I know you were taking the week off from your show, and I appreciate you doing that for us.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And this, I was considering, I think I'll do some sort of show. I mean, I wasn't going to do any show. And then as we got closer and closer to this week, I thought, oh my goodness, might want to use this time for something. And the right thing hadn't really shown up. And when you messaged me, I knew that's what this is for. So it was excellent. And I'm honored to do it. So thank you. Well, that is our show for today. I hope you found this useful. I realize we have not put the links up, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. It is servicerelief.us, correct?
Yes.
Okay, servicerelief.us. And then it's beautiful because when you go there, it actually will say submit your local site. So if your location isn't already on there, you can click on that to submit it. There's also a link for build your own directory, and of course other locations already listed. Bob, did you want to say anything about that? Did I identify that correctly?
Yeah, so servicerelief.us is a list of all of the localized directories that have been launched independently by other volunteers and people that wanted to carry that torch. And that will link off to their sites with listings of affected businesses.
Perfect. Okay, awesome. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put those links down in the comments as well. And anywhere where you see or hear the replay of this, definitely check the site out. Share it with your small business friends. Keep it in mind for future. What a fantastic zero cost resource to be able to get your business out there and get relief and support sooner than later. And thank you again, Bob and Drew, for being such huge inspirations. And again, of course, all the employees at Gatsby. I read that story and I was like, oh my gosh, I personally haven't heard many stories about businesses doing something like that. And knowing that none of you got paid to do any of this is phenomenal. So just huge, huge kudos to all of you. And to everybody watching, remember, every day is always a new day. Wherever you are today does not have to be where you are tomorrow. And that can be literally, it can be metaphorically, and sometimes it is just simple little tweaks and shifts like this that add up into bigger and bigger things. Drew was in one place with his business thinking, what? I don't want to do this, and realizing he had to. And then, look at this. Look, now there's a directory that literally it can be used globally to support other businesses as well as his own. And so I encourage you to, continue to be present with yourself, bring it back in. It's going to be okay. Breathe and do connect with the people in your area who can support you. So that's our show for today. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all next week. Bye.
Thanks, Kim.
And that's today's show. So what are you taking away? Let me know down in the comments wherever you listened or watched today's episode, and connect with me on Facebook on the Every Day is a New Day show and coaching page, or visit KimO'NeillCoaching.com for more info. Remember, every day is always a new day. Wherever you are today does not have to be where you are tomorrow. There is always hope, and you will always be amazing. I'll see you next time.